I don't believe we're ever going to succeed and truly. We may end up getting a shot in the arm. We may win at the end of the day that a vast majority of people of color get the vaccinations. But here's the thing, and I really want everybody to hear this. Until we start to treat the people of color from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet, until they start to go into these communities and address all the disparity that exists, economic, education, health, housing. If you really want to get our attention, come in there and say we're going to start addressing 350 years of trouble, of disparity.
Yes. Yes.
If we're really going to,
absolutely,
if you really want to pretend like you care, and you really want to, you can envelop this vaccination solution into a program where you're saying we are going to address all health concerns. We are mentally cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. We have mental health issues, present company included. There's mental health, there's stress, there's diabetes, there's hypertension. Where are those solutions? Why is everybody jumping on the vaccine wagon? And so I say all of that to say, and I know this is a question people are wondering, is where do I stand? It really doesn't matter where I stand on vaccinations. It really doesn't matter because that's not why I'm here. But I will tell you how I arrived at my decision. I have comorbidities. There are things that exist in my life that I think would be worsened if I got sick. I have taken the flu shot every year. I have grew up on vaccinations. And you know what? Montoya, sit down when I say this. And I've never asked what was in the flu shot. I never asked what was in the vaccinations that I took growing up. I have seldom asked what was in the vaccinations when I vaccinate my children. So I'm not really sure that this is the time I'm going to die on the sword and say I'm going to be one way or the other because I don't know enough. It's up to me to learn more. That's it. That's my opinion.
No, I love it. And I love it because let me explain it when I say I love it. And again, I trust, and I'm not surprised exactly how you approached it, because I am a huge believer in as you move through nuance, as neutral as you can stay, the more opportunity for truth. And so for anybody out there listening, whether you're already on a side or not, even me saying I'm an advocate, I can still hear the Detra, if you will. I can hear her explain, hey, I did this project to see what was out there. All of those questions, I think, based on our culture and the things that have happened in this country, or you basically said, here's what I heard, and all of those questions are absolutely fair based on concerns. Now, me being an advocate and loving to dig into science journals, and so I have time that I could answer most of your questions. But that's not the point here. The point is, here's the things that people are thinking about, and as you said, it's not reduced down just to, the Tuskegee experiment being the biggest culprit, if you will. And then the last thing you said really speaks to the idea that while this vaccine, as an advocate, I will say while this vaccine, that most vaccines have shown a history of being safe, not all. There have been vaccines taken off the market. So again, I'm not doing the either or. So I hope if you're a first time listener, you're listening that we're not on the edges here. We're kind of getting in the middle of all of this. And so I'll simply say that while vaccines to a degree mostly have been, I would even say, very good for human history. But again, this was a new one. So a new one that gets developed very quickly when the average one typically takes about 8 to 10 years. That is a valid question, not just for black people, but for anybody that's asking, how did this thing come to market very quickly? Again, there is an answer, but a valid question. And anyway, let me circle back to the point. So I say all this to say, that ultimately the last thing you just mentioned with our medical history as a people, and there's so much distrust, rightfully so, across the board. You spoke to the answer. You're absolutely right, Detra, that in the sense that if this country were able to show that, hey, this is a demographic, the African American culture, American community that is important to us, then I can imagine that for most people it looks kind of fishy right now that you're saying, hey, we see that y'all are dying from this the most. It looks like the medical community says, hey, we really care about you now. And to your point is, that's just not human nature to be like, well, I trust you now because you haven't shown that you've cared about me for the last 300 years. So why would I trust you now, even with the head of the AMA being a black woman, even with the Moderna being developed by an African-American woman. I think the Pfizer one was developed by a Nigerian. So even with those in place, there is a history for all of this hesitancy, which is, I think, is your major point. Let me see. You can, jump in right there, Queen. Again, I'm going to get to the caller out there, but I don't know if you're going to stick with us for a little longer, but I just really wanted to encapsulate what I heard you say and why I appreciated it.
Yeah, no, you said it. You encapsulated it quite well. And I think that, again, at the end of the day, to really, we can sprint. I'm talking about the health institutions. They can choose to sprint with us or treat this as a marathon. The sprint is trying to get the vaccination into our arms. The marathon is to demonstrate in an authentic way that we see you, we hear you, we've wronged you, and it's time to try to address, to make good. Really start to look at this community and say something is awry, and in many respects not through fault of their own. It is not kids' fault that they are underserved in education. It is not our kids' fault that they're underserved in terms of access to good health care. We can't even go and get grocery stores within 5 miles in many food deserts across the country. And guess who are in those food deserts? People of color.
Yes.
No wonder we have hypertension.
Absolutely.
No wonder we have diabetes. No wonder. Then listen to this. Even people with money are getting COVID more than others. You know why? Because there's bias in healthcare administration. Even the doctor, has a black doctor die of COVID? And when she's begging them, I'm not well. I need something more here. And then she dies. She's treating people with COVID and died of COVID, telling the doctors, you're not treating me like you would a white person. So until we're willing to have those types of conversations, we are going to find that we continue this gap. It's only going to get wider and wider and wider, and I don't care who's in the White House, because we got to be willing to